Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Picket Studios. And today I am super excited because we are releasing another one of my stamp sets. This is Blooming Trumpet Flowers. I super love the way this one came out. This was one that Nicole had, if you don't know, the owner of Picket Studios is Nicole, that she had specifically requested. When I first sat down to do it, I wasn't sure exactly what my game plan was. So I picked out some other really pretty products from the newest release and just kind of sat down to see what I was going to start making. Now, I don't know if any of you guys are like me. Sometimes when I have new products, I have a lot of ideas. And since I drew this one, obviously I've had a lot of ideas for a long time. And so that can lead me to just be really overwhelmed and not sure what direction that I want to go with the card when I first sit down. And so what do I do to get over that? I just sit down and I stamp out everything. Like that's just so I could get something on this blank piece of paper that will help motivate me to move forward. So I pulled out all of the images. In this one, there is a large kind of swag, like corner piece. And then there's two kind of side view flowers and one that is front facing, and then two leaves. One like full front facing leaf and then one that's turned to the side. You guys already know, if you follow my channel, that I want my stamp sets to be super versatile. I want them to be used in multiple ways. And so when I put them together, I try to think about all the different ways that I would want to use them as a card maker. So I knew that I wanted to have like this little corner piece. I love that you can use it for, you could put it in a corner, you could round it around an arch, you can put two of them together. I'm going to do that for one of the cards today. But I just sit down, and for me, because I am a colorist, coloring is just like my happy place. It's where if I'm, stressed out, that's how I got started in this hobby in the first place, because I had a super stressful job. And so then when I would come home, I could just sit down and make cards and color and kind of, decompress from my day. So that's what I do. I just pick colors that I like, that I naturally gravitate towards. Trumpet flowers come in all different kinds of colors, and there's all different kinds in this family. So we're going to be doing a couple of different color combinations. This one is going to be pink, a pretty bright pink. And then we're going to do one that's orange, and we're going to do a two-tone one as well. And I am a clean and simple card maker at heart. Like when I first started card making, that was really what I was drawn to. And unfortunately, at the time that I started card making, like clean and simple was not in style. Like it wasn't in vogue. It did become that way a couple of years later, and now I think it's on its way out. I think we're coming back into the more layered look now. And I can do a little bit of clean and layered, but clean and simple always really has my heart. And I think that's probably because in real life, I like clean lines. I like where the kind of like the colors do the work. And with a clean and simple card, if you're somebody who enjoys coloring, or you've spent a lot of time on a piece coloring it, clean and simple is the best way to make your coloring shine, because it is the focal point. Now, of course, we have, supporting actors or actresses that will kind of help our card design come together, but it really allows that coloring to be the star of the show. Now, this was kind of like my, my underpainting, if you will. Like these projects are kind of like my underpainting. So I sat down, stamped them out, colored them, and so that way I could get started with them. And the easiest way for me to do that is to do something I'm really comfortable with and something that I really enjoy. So that's how I got here. So if you are struggling with a little bit of overwhelm, or you are, you have a whole bunch of ideas, or maybe you just have a whole bunch of products and you're not really sure where to start, because we both know there's two separate hobbies, right? One is card making and one is buying card making supplies. Two totally different hobbies. And I'm just as guilty of the next person. I have some stamps that I purchased oh my gosh, it's probably been like a month ago that are still just sitting here uninked. Yeah. And there's some that are longer than that. Like, no shame, no judgment here. Like, everybody's welcome. But anyway, so just sitting down and getting started, like getting one of those like super comfortable ideas out of the way can help kind of pave the way for me personally to then be able to move on and experiment. So here I am doing the pinks. Don't worry, we're going to color this a second time and we'll go over more of where we're laying down, you know, the shading and things like that. But that is my suggestion to you if you suffer from a little bit of overwhelm, is pick a technique that you love, pick a style that you love, and go with color families that are tried and true. Like if you are stuck in a point where you're overwhelmed and you're not sure what to do, or your creative mojo has taken a vacation, that's not the time to be trying new color combinations. Like if you're just trying to get something on the paper, go with what your heart loves. And like I've said that before. If you guys have watched my channel, then you know one of the best card making pieces of advice that I ever got was find something that you love and be good at it. Like find something that you love and then just practice until you are good at it. And for me, that was coloring. And if you've ever heard my story of how I kind of got started coloring, then you already know I owned my alcohol markers for 2 years before I really started using them, because I was always so disappointed in the way that my coloring looked, because it didn't look as dimensional as everybody else's. But you're not in a competition with everybody else. If you're in a competition with anybody, it's the you were yesterday. So just try to be a little bit better than that in all aspects of life. That's just good life advice. So anywho, for this one, I went with the really bright pinks, and then for the greens, I'm just using yellow greens. These are my go-to yellow greens. I'm using a YG67 and then a YG17, and I'm just following, it sounds so weird every time, follow along with the lines that your illustrator left you, but I am the illustrator, so follow along the lines that I left you. So anyway, I just basically took my darkest color, went right up the middle of most of these leaves, or any point where they're tucked under the flowers or where there's something on top of them. You know, that's a good place to add shading as well. There are a couple of leaves in here that are drawn that are side views. So where it's cupped, like where it's bent over and you can see just a little bit of the other leaf, it's going to be much darker in there. And then your side will be much lighter. So this one, I think I ended up using, I can't remember if I used 3 or 4 colors, to be quite honest. But I probably used 3 looking at it. And you know, and I just colored this the other day. I think it's just because we have so much going on. Does anybody else feel like as a parent, no, I definitely used 4. I can see as I'm coloring it, like that I'm leaving that white gap for that YG01. That as a parent, May is just like hits you over the head and drags you around. Like May is so, and especially because like my family also has birthdays in May, but like between Mother's Day and end of school functions and my son's birthday, my sister's birthday, Memorial Day, like May is just hopping for me. Am I alone in that? I feel like it beats me up every time. So now that we have that one done, we are going to go into the two-tone one, but the same rules still apply. So basically, your trumpet flowers are tubes. And so your darkest portion is always going to be that inside section, because it goes all the way down to where the stamen is connecting to the stem. So most of your darkest shading is going to be in that center. Sometimes when you are like the one that's front facing, the one that we're coloring here, you can be a little bit hesitant to put the dark colors in there, but don't be scared of it. That's where the shade, like the shadows would be, because you're looking down inside the flower. So I do add also a little bit of shading where the petals are curling up over the sides of themselves. There would also be a little bit of shading there because those petals are kind of peeling back and blocking the light from the actual like base of your trumpet flower. In this one, it's going to be like a purple to a pink, and I don't even know if this exists in real life, quite honestly, but it's my card and my flowers, and I'll do what I want. I suggest you do the same. So now we're just going in and we're kind of pulling that color out. If I, like when I did the pink ones, I could add some shading to the edges, you know, along those lines, because trumpet flowers typically are pretty ruffly. So you would add shading to those edges, and I will do that, but I'm going to do it with the pink since I want my flowers to fade from purple up into pink. But if you're using one color like I did with the darker pinks, then you could do that shading with your darkest color or with your dark midtone. In the case of the last flowers that we just colored, the pink ones, your dark midtone would be an RV 19. So here we are, since we're blending them together, I'm leaving lots of white space because I need to add in that pink, but my lightest purple is a VO4, and that's because my first pink, my darkest pink, is going to be an RVO4, and I know they'll work really well together because they both end in 4, and with Copic markers, that's what you want to look for. Now, I am going to take that RVO4 over quite a bit of my purple, and that's just going to help it blend so that it looks like the flower is, you know, fading from that dark purple to that lighter pink, and it's meant to be that way. But you can see as I'm going in with this RVO4 that I am starting to add some shading to the edges of those petals. So where, you know, the lines are drawn in there, where maybe your petal would be would have a valley, or where it would have a peak. If you want to color it to have a peak, you would add the shading on the outside lines. If you want it to be a valley, you would put the shading on the inside lines. And that's something that I've covered before in some of my other videos. If that's something that's still confusing to you, by all means, leave me a comment and let me know. And it's something that maybe we could spend some more time concentrating on. But so this RVO4 is going to be my darkest pink, and then my lightest pink, I'm only using 2 here because we've done so much shading with the purple, is going to be that RVO2. And for this one, I'm not going to take it over the purple. I'm just going to bring it in from the edges and kind of flick it in, just like feather it in, so that it blends really nicely, but it isn't going to lift any of my darkness. The pinks, especially in Copic markers, they can really, really bleach out their darker counterparts. And I still want that depth and dimension that I've spent all this time, you know, trying to achieve with my coloring. And so I don't want to get rid of that, which is why I choose to come in from the edges with that lighter color. So for the centers, and with the other one, I just did, I think the Y08 and the YR24. I showed you the Y02, but honestly, I think in these ones, I ended up just using those as well because there's very little part of the stamen that's visible. And especially the ones that are like forward facing, it's just 2 little dots because you wouldn't be able to see the actual stems that they're connected to. For the greens, I chose to do these ones just a little bit darker. But I'm going to do the technique will be the same. So I'm not going to show you the whole thing. It's already a long video. You guys know how this rolls, but basically doing the same thing. Darkness where I'm like straight up and down the middle of the leaf. And then, along those little lines that are drawn in. Also anywhere it's tucked under or where something is laying on top of it. That is where you want to add your shadows. And for this one, I did only use 3 colors. So I used a G29, a G19, and a G07. Now that 19 and 07 probably seem like they're a little farther apart from each other, but if you're looking at the last number, a 7 is not that far from a 9, and the YG07 actually has it tends to lean a bit more yellow-green than a true green, and that is one of the reasons that I like it. A true green, I have a hard time achieving. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just the markers that I own, because I don't own all of them. You don't need all of them. But yeah, that's the way that I did this one. And then I'm just going to bring in a little bit of that YG03 to blend into the buds, because that 3 will blend much nicer into my 4s. For the orange ones, we are actually not going to color the larger spray. We're going to color the extra flowers included in the set. Oh, I should mention that 2 things. One, Picket Fence does this really cool thing where they'll do a bundle for the stamps and dies, and it's 10% off. So if you're like, I love these flowers and I want to pick them up, and you think that you want to get the dies as well, definitely get the bundle, because it'll save you some money. The other thing that I want to note is, if you previously purchased my last stamp set that was released, which is the Gerber Daisy, it's Brighter Days Gerber Daisy is the actual name of it. There's a bundle for that one too. But anyway, the font is the same. That is what I wanted to tell you. So the Sentiments font is the same for this set as the other set, and I did that on purpose so that you would be able to use them together. You could mix and match them, and they would look nice together. I do like medium to larger size sentiments. I'm not really a small sentiment girl, so most of my sets do have larger sentiments. But if you're a small sentiment person, Picket Fence has a lot of really great ones as well. So for these ones, I chose to go with a bit more of an orange color because I wanted to use the sentiment Sending Sunshine, and I thought that would make sense, with the orange flowers. And here, because we're coloring with one color, you can see now when I went in with my darkest color, I did add shading to kind of those outside edges of those petals to create some valleys and some peaks to give it more dimension. Because like I said before, these types of flowers typically are a little bit more ruffled. So every time I'm going in, I'm going over my previous color and I'm just extending it out just a little bit. So there's still going to be some white space that you'll see even up until the 3rd color, because that little bit of white space that's left is going to act as my highlight. And so that is reserved for my lightest color, which in this case is a Y38. These, like I said, you can do them any color whatsoever, but you can also use these separately, which we will do. But you can combine them with that larger swag piece to kind of build it out. If you're looking for a, specific shape or something like that, we're going to use it with some of the other, die cuts that Picket Fence has to make sure that our clean and simple cards are not boring, but they have like some nice texture and things, but nothing that's going to distract away from the coloring. For these colors, I decided to do, because you guys know I love the matchy-matchy when I'm doing pictures. And so I decided to do a combination of the last 2 greens, which just goes to show you that like you don't need to have that many markers to be able to get a bunch of different color combinations. So I chose the 2 darkest greens, the G29 and the G19. And then I am going to use the G07, but I'm going to add in the lightest color of a YG03. So it will create a more of a yellow-green look, because our highlight will have that kind of bright yellow-green. And it's just a good way to combine the 2 of those and get a 3rd combination that you can use, well, really for anything you want to color green, but obviously I spend a lot of time coloring florals. That's just what works for me. So that YG03 is going in now just in those little highlight areas, and it's like a good, just a good in-between green, a little bit deeper than the first combination. So now that all the coloring is done, you can see I've colored 2 of those pink-purple combinations, and I've also colored some of the extras in the first pink combination. And then these all have matching dies, including all of the sentiments in the set. There's a die for everything. So I'm just going to go ahead and line these up, run them through for the sentiments. And this is just my own personal opinion, but not everybody shares it, and that's okay. You can do whatever color combinations work for you. But I love black, white with a pop of color. Like, I love it. It's very striking because you have so much contrast, and I think it makes the cards more interesting. So for my sentiments, I chose to stamp them in white and heat emboss them on black. I treated with my anti-static tool. I'm going to stamp my sentiments twice because I feel like that gives me a good solid base for my white embossing powder to stick to. You don't want to smush these down. You just kind of want to give it light pressure, because if you give it too much pressure, you'll smush out your sentiment and it'll look weird. I also put my white detail embossing powder on twice and then shake off all the excess, and then I'm just going to heat these until they are smooth. And then these, like I said, everything has a coordinating die cut, so I will use their coordinating die cuts to cut these as well. In the set, we have the sending separate because there's also hugs and love that you can use to kind of stretch that sentiment a little bit. We tried not to repeat any. So for this card, I have the arch, it's a little arch window die, and this is from, now it'll all be linked below, but this is from the basic die cutting set 1. Really, really like the little arch window. I thought it would be super cute for my little trumpets flowers to be kind of like growing up the side of the window. You guys know I love a good window. It's not news. Come on. So I'm going to adhere that, and you could leave it just like this, like just along the little arch, put a sentiment on it, and that would be super cute. Also, some of my teammates over on Picket Fence used it as I originally drew it, as just like a little corner piece, and I love that as well. But here we're going to use the extra pieces to kind of build it out. And one of the things that I like to use when I'm doing clean and simple cards to make it more interesting is dimension. So I am only adding glue to the window frame so that it will come off as a full piece. And then I will be able to go in and add foam tape so that it is popped up off the card. Because I don't have a lot going on in the card, that little bit of dimension is going to make it look more interesting to the recipient. So the only hard part about this is that one little empty corner. You kind of do have to get the thin little pieces of foam tape on. I find cutting it super thin and then taking off the backing paper allows it to be a bit more malleable so that I can just scoot it around those corners. And then the larger pieces, it was much easier because I didn't have to pay attention so much to the window. I could just put them on the backs of the flowers. I have a white piece of cardstock that is trimmed down slightly, like 1/8 of an inch, so that I could have a black border for my A2 size card. And then I'm going to stick this directly into the center. I did think I did go up maybe just a smidge higher because I had to make room for that bottom leaf. And then I will put my sentiment on. It says, "You're the best." This could be used really just for any sort of occasion. You're the best could be congratulations. It could be hey, thanks for being there for me. It could be a lot of things. I love the versatility. You guys know that. And then there, a little bit of my foam tape was sticking out, and I just shoved it in like a sheet on the back side of your bed, just tucked it in with my scissors. So for this one, I used this one, and actually the next one, I used the, can you hear all my desk rattlings? The A2 rectangles for card layering set, and I used the 2 backgrounds that kind of come in that. For this one, it almost creates like an oval. I'm tucking the one side underneath the top flower, and then I am adhering the top flower over, so it looks like it's kind of a continuous circle. In order to make this fit on the A2 size card, I did have to trim off the very bottom of the leaf, I didn't think that that was a huge deal. And honestly, if I would have left them, I don't know that it would have been a huge deal. But I trimmed them so it would look like one continuous piece. And then again, because I've put the flowers on there, I will be able to add the foam tape to the back of it. Picket fence has foam tape, which is wonderful. It is much thicker. And so the reason that I didn't use it was because of the first card, that like getting around those corners, it's not that you can't do it, you can, but if you have a thicker foam tape, it's just more likely to be seen in those specific areas. I love it for like popping up full panels. So that's that one. And then for this one, I'm actually going to adhere the like little lattice down flat, and I'm going to pop up just my flowers and my sentiment for this one. So we still get that dimension. We still get that, you know, white on white where it creates the texture. It makes it look more interesting, but nothing that is competing with our coloring. These could be given as a set, honestly. Like, they're so matchy-matchy. I can't help myself, guys. So once I got everything where I wanted it to be, full disclosure, it would have been easier to pick it up with like some press and seal, but I was rushing and I didn't even think of that. I just automatically went to the old school way that I used to do it, which is putting a little bit of glue on the back of my largest flower and then picking up everything as one piece. And then that way I can go back in and you'll see, like, I'm going to go back in and kind of re-secure the glued areas. Oh, I have to attach the sending, or the sunshine, not the sending. So I will just go in. I just need them to hold together long enough for me to get some more glue in there. And then that way I can, again, pop them up as one full piece. It just makes it easier without having to cut all those little foam pieces. And this was good for me because recently I have broke like 2 or 3 nails. So I just cut them down. And I have absolutely no fingernails for removing my backing tape. None. Zero. So that was a little bit frustrating. But also, again, I know that I was rushing because it was like the end of my workday and I was just trying to knock it out. So then went ahead and adhere those. This is all popped up on the dimensional tape. And to accent them, I'm going to add some clear glitter to kind of like the petals that are folded out on the flowers. I'm also going to go in with a white gel pen and add some highlights to the stamen and then to the flower petals as well. It's just a little extra, you know, detail work that can kind of make them look a little extra special. And then let me find it. You guys know I cannot remember the names of any of these things. I think it's is it Starry Night? It's the gemstones. What are they? Yeah, Starry Skies. That's what it is. And so they have a couple of different sizes in here. They have some clear as well as some kind of like iridescent, and I thought that they complemented this really nicely. I love a good neutral gem mix, and so I went ahead and put these on all of the cards to accent the sentiment or fill in any areas, you know, that looked like they were kind of a larger gap. I find that the easiest way for me to do this is to use my crystal katana. It has the little wax tip so that you can pick them up. And then I frequently use the other side to kind of move my gems around so I can find the size that I want. With all of my, not just my rhinestones, but with pretty much all of my gluing, I'm pretty much straight glue press. My Sweet Petunias glue press at this point. And then that is the last step in completing these cards. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you love this set as much as I do. I always appreciate your guys' time and support, and I will catch you on the next video.